guys, what's up? It's Joe Rady from Rady's Rides. I'm here at Ferrari at Tampa Bay, and it's a special occasion for two reasons. Number one, we are now going to be bringing you more Ferraris, new and from the past, here at this location. But I think the bigger news for right now is I'm standing next to the all-new, most powerful mid-engine, V8 mid-engine Ferrari. This is the all-new F8 Tributo. Let's talk a little bit about Ferrari history. So that iconic brand started by Enzo Ferrari. It was never his intention to build street cars specifically. He knew that to go racing, because that's where he cut his teeth, was being a race car driver. He wanted to race, so he knew that he had to build street cars to fund that. That little factory in Maranello means so much, not only to Italy, but for so many fans of this iconic brand of the prancing horse. Now, with this car being called the Tributo, what are we paying tribute to? What Ferrari wants to do is they want to acknowledge all of the great mid-engine V8 powered Ferraris over the years. It goes back to 1975 with the Ferrari 308, then on to the 328, 348, the 355 Berlinetta, the 360 Modena, the Ferrari F8 Of course, we can't forget the Ferrari 458, which is the last of the naturally aspirated mid-engine V8 Ferraris. And then finally, the Ferrari 488, which was the first of the twin turbo models. Now, this F8 Tributo is not necessarily just replacing the Ferrari 488. It's replacing the high pinnacle example of that model known as the 488 GTB. Some other goodies about this Tributo is that some of the styling is taken from those cars that I mentioned, including, and we can't forget, Ferrari's first ever supercar, which is that 288 GTO, and my personal all-time favorite dream car, that if somebody wants to give me my dream car of all time, what is it? The iconic Ferrari F40. What's even more wonderful about this F8 Tributo is that this is a car that Ferrari says you could drive regularly on the street and also at the track, because they've taken a lot of goodness from the pista, the 488 pista, which pista in Italian means track. Let's go ahead though, we've talked about that heritage. Let's dive into this all new 2020 F8 Tributo. Right off the bat, we're talking about the classic colors, that Corsa, the Rosa Corsa color, bright red, iconic Italian color. You can see the heritage, the lineage, the connection between the F8 and the car that it's replacing, the 488 GTB. Very, very small headlight housing, all blacked out. Looks so sinister. You're gonna have LED headlights, of course, and LED daytime running lamps, and of course, turn signals as well. Look at how everything is just sculpted, not only to look good, but also to perform. So you actually have the open air ability for that air to travel into the fender for aerodynamic purposes. This car actually produces 10% more downforce than the pista. So that's something to remember, and the Ferrari 48 GTB. Now, as we come across the front of the vehicle, you can see that lower lip splitter on the corner. That's all going to produce extra downforce. You have a S functional duct on this lower portion underneath the main nose. You can see the beautiful metal work of that metal grate over the air intakes. Downforce, you don't need massive wings. It all comes from design and what's happening underneath. But as we continue across from one side to the other, this thing is so low and so wide that you can see all the connections with what's going on. Even on the corners here for the brake cooling and whatnot, you have that functionality. Now, prancing horse, that iconic emblem goes back so many decades. You got the tricolore, the green, white, and red of the Italian flag. And just when people think Ferrari, they think red and they think that prancing horse. Now, when we go up onto the front, because remember, this is mid-engine, so we have a trunk up front. You can see the beautiful bodywork, the way everything is sculpted. This is all for channeling air and helping to produce the extra downforce. And like I said, this F8 is the most powerful mid-engine V8 Ferrari ever, including the F40. So something to think about. Now, when we come around the bend, what are we gonna find? One thing I wanna point out that's very unique to Ferrari is when it comes to some of their styling, they just don't care. Look at how they took the DOT reflector and kind of just mounted it here in that actual fender line. But these wheels, forged aluminum. So forged, it's stronger than cast. That's gonna help cut down on the rotating mass. Lurking behind there, you're gonna have these massive Brembo carbon ceramic rotors and calipers. Look at this. It looks like a box of bananas hiding behind this wheel. That's gonna give you ultimate stopping capability. You can see the carbon ceramic rotor, two-piece rotor, of course. Even the rotor is larger than most cars' wheels. So that is something to think about when looking at this setup. And if you're wondering, well, what's the size of this wheel? 20-inch wheel. Up front, we have 245, and that's a 35 series sidewall. Of course, these are wrapped in Pirelli P0 tires. Makes sense. Italian car, Italian tire manufacturer. In that beautiful sculpted fender, we get to the Scuderia badge. So Scuderia Ferrari, Scuderia, that's an Italian word for stable. Obviously, if we have the prancing horses, we got to keep them in their stable. That's that iconic logo that goes with Enzo's racing program. You have your LED side marker lamps. I kind of like the way Ferrari just, they don't blend it into the mirrors like a lot of other cars. They just have it smack dab right there on the side. Has such a great look. One thing that's probably going to be very hard to see is even down below, you have venting that's going to help channel air from the front of the car across your splitter here that wraps all the way around the side. It's those intricate details everywhere that not only about looks, but also definitely about performance. We go up onto the hood, very, very thin A-pillar to the chassis, beautiful style roof. I like the way they've done the mirrors. It actually reminds me a little bit of that Ferrari F40, Ferrari F430 mirror design. Down low, you have a little bit of a sill extension, and everything is just about channeling air towards the rear of the car. I really like the way they went with the flat black and kind of just made it end and continue underneath, and then actually brought the body work out. Really gives that beautiful flared out Coke bottle design. When we get to the air inlets, there's some changes. So on the 488 GTB, which is the car that this replaces, this actually channeled air for the intercoolers, because remember, this is twin turbocharged, no more naturally aspirated. What they did is that the new vent here is just for the intercoolers. On the 488 GTB, you actually had intercooler and also for the engine, air for the engine to be channeled. And they now have changed that setup, and this is all just for the intercoolers on both sides. Look at the shape of the door handle. Like I said, a lot of manufacturers try to hide these things, but really it sticks out, but yet it's still aerodynamic, and they even leave the keyhole just exposed, no making it disappear. Some of those things kind of remind me of what Enzo was all about. Enzo did it his way, and that was the only way that things got done. Now, as we keep working our way towards the rear, you have that very sharp rear quarter window. Let's talk about a lot of times we kind of go front tire and wheel setup. Let's talk about the rears, because there's some differences going on here. So now we still have a 20-inch forged wheel. Now we're talking about 305. So the width of this tire is a 305, and this is a 30 series sidewall. There's a reason for that. Obviously, this being rear wheel drive, we want to get traction to the ground. The reason why the tires up front are a little skinnier is to give you quicker steering, because remember, this car's not about drag racing, it's about taking it on a course. And what's interesting is that Ferrari is so fine-tuned into working hard to just shave tenths of a second. This car is faster than the 48 GTB, but we'll talk about that a little bit more. One thing I do want to point out though is even at the rear brake setup, you still have that massive rotor, not as big as up front, but still very massive. And then of course, another box of bananas right there. Crazy to see this type of braking capability in a road-going car. When we get to the rear, I think this is what Ferrari is all about. You're gonna have that mid-mounted. So when we say mid-mounted, we're talking about the engine is in between the rear axle and the front axle. That's that V8 twin turbocharged. If you notice this rear glass, that is actually not glass. It's a polycarbonate glass called Lexan. So that's Lexan to cut weight. I love the slots that they cut in to release that heat. This is part, so when we say Tributo, we talked about how we're paying tribute to those past models. This was designed specifically to mimic the Ferrari F40. And I could clearly see, being a fan of the Ferrari F40, I could clearly see where they went in that direction. Look at all the fine metal work on the venting areas. Now, I said on the side is where you're gonna get your intercooler venting, where the air actually is gonna be channeled into that V8 twin turbo beast is right here at the back of the vehicle. This whole rear spoiler area is carbon fiber. So this is gonna help shave weight, and this makes it lighter than the 488 GTB it replaces. When we get to the tail end of the business, they brought it back, and I'm so happy. You have your dual taillights, or quad, 2 on each side, round. This is gonna pay tribute to the 288 GTO. This pays tribute to the Ferrari 308 of the past. Full LED, of course. We have more venting to just get that heat out of that rear engine compartment, and also for aerodynamic efficiency. Down below, same story, but now you have a massive rear diffuser, and I love the way the exhausts just come and they extend past the rear bumper fascia area. One thing to know about the back of this car is that you actually have active shutters that are open and closing as you are performing on the track to channel air underneath this tunnel design. Because what I love about Ferraris, for the most part, is that yes, you have your spoiler here, there's no active aero. This doesn't pop up and it's 10 feet tall, you know, nothing's dropping down. Air is gonna be channeled over the car, that's gonna give us the downforce, but air is being channeled underneath, and that's gonna suck the car down to the track. We have that prancing horse. Look at all the fine, beautiful lines. All of this is functionality. That's the great thing, is that it's pleasing to the eye and to the soul, but it's also functionality. If you're ready though, I'm ready. Let's pop that engine hatch and take a look at the heart of this prancing horse. All right, guys, we got the rear engine hatch popped. This is the heart of this Italian stallion. What you're looking at is a 3.9 liter twin turbo V8. Now, this engine is a dry sump engine. Let me explain what that means. The oil is actually in a separate reservoir so that it isn't gonna slosh around in the bottom of the oil pan. What can happen is when you have a vehicle like this and you're taking it to the track, you could have oil starvation depending on what corners you're going around as that oil is sloshing around. Having a dry sump system, you now have the reservoir separate, and it's slowly feeding just the right amount of oil to lubricate all the cylinders and pistons and all that good stuff, and you're not gonna have any oil starvation. But let's get back to the business underneath this hatch. So you have that beautiful 3.9 liter V8, 710 horsepower, makes this the most powerful mid-engine V8 ever. It's all assisted with twin turbos, 568 pound-feet of torque. It's mated to a 7-speed DCT transmission, 8,000 RPM redline from that flat plane crankshaft. What they have done compared to the 488 GTB is they've lightened all of that rotating mass. So pistons, rods, everything has been lightened, valves to allow that engine to really spin very, very freely. You're looking at about 64 pounds have been taken off of this engine. And when you're asking, well, what is the weight? The way that you see this F8 Tributo is around 3,164 pounds. You could actually option this with carbon fiber wheels, carbon fiber pieces on the engine compartment to bring it down to 2,932 pounds. You want performance numbers? I got them for you. 0 to 60, 2.8 seconds. This will hit 0 to 124 miles an hour in 4.9 seconds and has a top speed of 211 miles per hour. But guess what? You're actually gonna get decent MPGs, 15 in the city, 19 on the highway. They have developed all of this from the 488 Pista, which remember, Pista means track, their Formula One program, and of course the Ferrari Challenge Race Series. This whole car 81 pounds lighter than the 488 GTB. One thing that they have added compared to the 488 is they added what's called a hot tube. So with a twin turbo powered car, it actually is a little bit quieter. The turbos will quiet the engine, exhaust, and all that. What they decided to do is add something called a hot tube that sits by the driver to bring some of that sound into some more of the sound into the cabin. It's not fake sound, but it's there to help bring more of that glorious sound of a Ferrari, especially the F8 Tributo. If you're ready, I'm ready. We're not even ready for the drive yet. Let's fire up this Italian stallion. All right, guys, we're inside the Ferrari F8 Tributo. This is a very special moment. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, seriously, my favorite Matchbox car. That's when Matchbox cars were cool. Now everything is Hot Wheels. Hot Wheels is the coolest. But back then I had a Ferrari 308 that looked just like Magnum PI's car back from the 1980s. And that was my favorite car, red with a tan interior. And here I am sitting in this. Now, I know you're at that point where you're like, Joe, what's the price tag of this F8 Tributo? Now, this car does have some options, and I will talk about that in a second. You're looking at a price tag at MSRP of a little over $300,000. Now, you get what you pay for kind of thing. This car is hand-assembled in Maranello. You're not buying just a car. You are buying an icon, a tradition, a piece of Italy that you just don't get with other cars. Yes, you could go out and get a C8 Corvette, but nobody's cross-shopping this car with a Corvette. Let's see what you get. To the door panel. Love all the fine Italian leather. This stuff is hand-stitched by people at the Maranello facility. You have that beautiful tan with the red contrast stitching. I like the darker gray accents. The speaker covers are all blacked out. The shape just really mimics what's going on the outside, bringing it to the interior. Up on the dash, that fine Italian leather continues. Beautiful F8 Tributo badge. Look at the AC vents. They look like something that belongs on a military vehicle. Carbon fiber starts on one side, comes all the way across. Very minimalistic. Dash is very low. We get to the controls for the infotainment system, which everything is driver focused. This is all we have right here. I love this. Minimalistic. We don't need all the garbage all over the place. You have your ability to get into those cameras, because remember, you have forward-facing camera, the rear camera, obviously. Very slim and trim on the AC controls. Now get ready for it. I have to stay true to Rady's Rides and to you guys. I am gonna zonk the AC controls. It's a little on the cheaper side. I wish that this housing was carbon fiber. This is a Ferrari. But other than that, that's probably the only zonk you're gonna hear out of me. You do get 2 cup holders, which is a nice touch. Or if you're gonna not bring drinks in here, you can have some breath mints in there, because I'm telling you, you're gonna wanna keep that breath minty fresh as you're driving this Ferrari F8. Look at the beautiful work here, just the way that they bring the center console. It's raised up. This gives you a nice area for those track times as you're lapping the Nürburgring. You could collect your slip. You could have your pass there to go for a lap around the Nürburgring, but that's gonna be your controls. Reverse, put it into automatic, and then you have your window controls right here in the center. But that raised portion, just absolutely beautiful. We get to the back, you have a nice palm rest here. If your palms are getting sweaty driving this car, Ferrari badging. And then another area, yes, you could have 2 Italian Twinkies, 1, 2 right there, USB and a 12 volt. So they got you connected in here with charging abilities. And then these seats, this is some of the options. So you have the beautiful prancing horse stitched in red, the red stitching, the way that this seat just fits to your body. And if you notice, The bottom portion is actually very wide, very long to fit a lot of different body types, and just the leather is so soft, and it feels like a race seat, but without squishing you like a race seat. But why don't you get over the best side? I want to show you behind the wheel, this carbon fiber wheel of this Ferrari F8. All right, guys, behind the wheel, I want to share this moment behind the business end. You actually do have 3 memory settings on the seat, so this thing isn't like just stripped of all of its amenities for everyday driving. That beautiful Ferrari badge there on the sill. Steering wheel, this is an option now. This is one of those options that really brings up the price. This is a Formula One style steering wheel. This one is a $5,000 option. But the carbon fiber is drop dead gorgeous. The stitch work, you have the Formula One style shift lights, that prancing horse. Everything that you need to fire this car up is right here. The Maranello switch, which means little switch to go in through your different modes. Let's go ahead, let's fire it up. So we're gonna hit the start stop button, bright red. Comes to life. On the dash, you have a bright yellow tachometer there with a red line of 8,000 RPM. You have the massive paddles that are gonna go up and down that 7-speed DCT. You have 2 TFT displays, one on each side for navigation, for information about the car, your fuel gauge and everything. AC vents nicely placed, some more carbon fiber. But this thing is absolutely, let me show you the shift lights here. When you get on throttle, you'll see up top how they light up for you there. You could hear that, I could hear the twin turbos spooling up very nicely from that hot tube. If you're ready though, I'm ready. Let's take this F8 Tributo for a spin. All right, guys, special moment. We're in the F8 Tributo. We left Ferrari at Tampa Bay, having a manual shift mode. Here we go, second gear. The shifts are so lightning fast. And the great news is that guess what? If you want to have it shift in automatic mode, it'll do so, and it's so seamless. Right now I have the Maranello switch in sport. I'm gonna go ahead and put it in race. That's going to cut back some of the nannies, and the more that you keep turning that little switch, because that's what Maranello means in Italian, that little switch to the right, the less nannies you have, and it's more on you. So something to think about. Now, being behind the wheel, visibility out the windshield is amazing. Super clear. I love the way the fenders are highly peaked so that you could really get a good visual reference point for where you're going. Super smooth. If you hear any beeping, that's the lane keep assist. This does have safety features like you would have just on any other car today. Really cool the way everything that you need is right on the steering wheel. So to use your turn signal, you're just gonna hit that button. If you lightly tap it, it's 3 flash blinks. If you push it a little harder, then it's gonna stay on. But having the paddles attached to the steering column, I prefer that because as you're driving, you're able to hit those larger paddles and they're always gonna be in the same spot. You actually can option in larger paddles if that's something that you want. Some of the other options you can add is to lift the front nose as you're going different places depending on the gradient. Also, an information display for the passenger where they could actually go through different information and sort of be like your co-pilot over there, because everything is driver focused in this car. The dampers are so spot on the money. So this has something very similar to MagneRide like you would find a Shelby GT350. It allows the suspension to tune itself every nanosecond and give you the perfect ride. Even over some of the harder bumps, this Ferrari rides actually better than some of the other more common cars that we've driven here on Rady's Rides. Looking out the back, I'll be honest, that Ferrari F40 Lexan glass engine window, it's a little hard to see at it because of the slots, but I don't care. I mean, this thing's a Ferrari. Side mirrors work great. Visibility out the side windows is super clear and crisp, so that is not an issue. The wonderful thing is you're gonna get performance, pista performance, but this is everyday livability. You have all the nice fine touches, full carpet, sound deadening, everything else. They've done a lot of work with the computer control of torque vectoring and sway control and everything else. Those information displays on both sides of the tach are wonderful to look at. TFT display, I could look at what my tire pressure is and tire temperature. All right, guys, pulling away. This thing's like a pussycat, but we are in an Italian stallion on throttle into this right-hand bend. She just hunkers down, so smooth. Here we go. Wow! Oh my God! Woo! This thing is unbelievable. Unbelievable. The shifts are so crisp, and what's interesting is I'm glad that we drove the 360 Modena and the F430 here on Rady's Rise, because it allows me to really see the progression that they've done with the transmission, the brakes. Ferrari was the first to have those carbon ceramic brakes on a road-going car. They did that back in 2008. So it's been 12 years of development to really fine-tune this instrument, and this car is an instrument. I would love to take this on a track day, but even just driving it around, very, very special moment, and I'm glad to be able to share it with you. Seats, comfortable, supportive. Bolstering is actually not too high. It's not meant to be a full track car, so the bolstering is high, but nothing that's gonna squeeze play you like a vice grip. Steering wheel, this optional wheel is on the money. I love the thickness, the carbon fiber, the shift lights, and the shift lights are very progressive. There's a lot more LEDs in there. Change color, that bright yellow tag. All right, guys, pulling it away from the light. I tell you, this is an experience of a lifetime and just mind-blowing performance. Here we go, on throttle. Oh my God, 8,000 RPM. Wow. Wow, 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 that's all I can say. Downshift, downshift. Nice, look at this, really responsive. Woo! Wow. It's incredible, the steering. It's like it's connected to your frontal lobe, and you just think, and you're already turning. So feedback is great. They added extra weight to the steering wheel, feel and feedback for the F8, and I think it's really paying huge dividends in that. The downshifts, it feels like somebody's like, it feels like a black stallion kicking you in your back every time you downshift. It's that precise, that just powerful, and I love that. That's where the car comes alive. It really just, this thing has a soul, and it's amazing. Absolutely amazing. All right, guys, one more time for you. Let's do it in first gear. Here we go, first gear on wow, on the brakes. Wow, turning. Woo, so crisp. Here we go. Wow. Oh my God. Look at this, holds a line like a champ. Like a champ, so smooth, so capable, and you could just daily drive this thing if you wanted to. That's what you get out of the most powerful mid-engine V8 Ferrari ever. And from what they're saying, this is the end of this type of vehicle, that the next generation is gonna have some type of hybrid power. Now, will it be faster than this one? I'm sure, but internal combustion engine with twin turbos, it's just a very unique driving experience. But we're gonna go ahead, get back to Ferrari at Tampa Bay. I'm sure they're wondering where their F8 Tributo is. So I'll see you in a split second. Oh my God, can you believe it? We just drove the all-new F8 Tributo. Such a special moment that ever since I was a kid, playing with my Matchbox, playing with my Hot Wheels, and now actually being able to share this with you. I definitely got to thank Matt and Ryan here at Ferrari Tampa Bay and everybody else, so accommodating. I understand why this car exists. And yes, there are other brands, supercar brands, McLaren, Lamborghini. Nobody does it like Ferrari. And this F8 Tributo celebrating, this is it. This is the last of its kind, because what they're saying is that the car that replaces it is going to be hybrid power, very similar to the LaFerrari, and this is the last of an internal combustion engine alone. Will the new one be faster? Sure, but nothing is like the original, and that's what makes this extra special. But if it's supercars, and this definitely is a dream aspiring supercar that you want to see more on Rady's Rides, leave a comment in the comment section. If you're new and you're on your way out, hit the subscribe button. I promise you it's worthwhile coming back for more. If you are a subscriber, thank you for being part of the Rady's Rides family. If you want to help us keep making great content just for you on the channel, click the link in the description, get yourself some Rady's Rides merch. I got to give it up to my paisan, Big Guns McGee, getting this prancing horse. Trust me, I had to help him with a towel because he was drooling all over the place. So thank you, Tom, for sharing this special moment. And just like always, guys, I'll see you on the next ride.